So there's been a few developments since my last tarot reading. It was interesting. One of the things that came through in the earlier prediction was that Robert Kennedy Jr. might be offered some kind of different arrangement. In my reading, it seemed like the cards were more aligned with Harris than they were with Trump at the time, but um, it seems that he was actually courting Kamala Harris and also Donald Trump to see what leverage he could get with either party since he's got a certain agenda that he wants to pursue, I guess, in terms of healthy food and dismantling corporate hegemony within um, big agriculture and big pharma and that kind of thing. So obviously Harris didn't want to talk to him. Maybe he was in being a Democrat, maybe he felt he was more aligned with Harris, but they just didn't want to talk to him. So um, he has found alignment with Donald Trump, which is interesting. He's decided that there's no path for victory on his own, so he's looking to join forces with another party. So I looked at, did a tarot reading just now on his effect on the Republican Party. And the first card I pulled was the Tower in reverse, which suggests that the Republican Party were going a bit perhaps into free fall, and that Robert Kennedy Jr.'s melding with them it brings them out of that. If anything, it helps them get out of that situation. Also got the Ace of Cups, which is that it brings a bit of new emotions for a start, but also grace and sort of temperance. It would seem you see that um, the dove there. So, like, I think that Kennedy Jr.'s influence would sort of temper some of Donald Trump's more, angry rhetoric, perhaps somehow. Brings a bit of grace to the Republican Party because Robert Kennedy Jr. is very diplomatic in the way that he approaches things. He's not really critical of people. He's critical of decisions, but he doesn't sort of resort to name calling and things like that too much. The other thing is, it seems he brings practical decision making and hard work, and yeah, a sense of working together, and working towards goals with practical ideas for making them happen. Um, so it seems like a good influence that he's bringing to the Republican Party. Um, I then looked at the effect this would have. So tarot can only sort of be a reading from, the point of view of the present. And so if you ask the same question and draw tarot cards on different days, you'll get a different answer. So now that these choices have been made, and these, we've shifted timelines a little bit with him withdrawing from the race, or not fully withdrawing, but suspending his his ticket, in particularly the what are they called? The states that are hotly contested. This does change things from the point of view that we were at last time when we did a reading. And so now I looked at Kamala Harris after the election and drew this card, which isn't the same positive card that she got last time, which was a victory card. It seemed to be that she, from the point of view where they were at last time, it looked like victory could have been hers. It was a Six of Wands, whereas this time it feels like she's sort of walking away with her head tucked between her legs, kind of thing. So Donald Trump's shifted, and this has changed things, because we now look at Donald Trump after the election, and this is what it looks like. And you'll notice a red and a green figure. So I guess green could be the color of RFK. I'm not saying that there's going to be any kind of change in VPs. I suppose it's possible, but I don't think so. But just the union of these two figures brings about a kind of happy marriage, in a way, it would seem, here, where there's sort of shared vision or shared passions that they want to work towards. So it's interesting. Things have changed quite a bit. Let's have a look at RFK Jr. after the election. Pull a card for him. That's sort of it's victory at all costs, which is interesting. You got the two other people walking away, disgruntled, defeated. So maybe being shut out by the Democrats, he has, and shut out by the media. He's just so determined to get in that he's willing to sort of join forces with Trump in that situation, and to get some of what he wants across, to implement some of what he can. Some would argue that he might have sold his soul a little bit, and some would even suggest that he might be a bit naive going into a Trump administration, that, Trump's full of big promises. So I don't know to what extent he might get swallowed up in that, or some of his ideals might get swallowed up within a Trump administration. I mean, that could, of course, be Donald Trump as well, but it's, yeah, sort of victory at all costs. He's taken sides, if you like, in a battle. Um, uh, when before he was sort of standing in the middle and trying to be a third party outside of that system, but because he's been forced to play his hand to some degree, he's had to take sides because he is determined to have victory, I guess. Well, there we go. Some thoughts on that recent turn of events. Of course, there may be a lot more turns of events before the election plays out. So um, we'll see what happens. We have also got whether Trump gets sentenced prior to the election and what that means for Trump, whether that will shift something within the Republican Party. It's certainly heating up to be a very interesting election. Personally, I'm a big fan of RFK myself, and a little bit. I kind of understand his perspective. I mean, I understand why he's done what he's done, but and he's because he was sued in every state to try and keep him off the ballot with little ridiculous reasons, and the judge, he was a few minutes late to a hearing, and the judge had the whole day open, and yet cancelled it, and it wasn't his fault. It was because his flight got cancelled. There's just a lot of bureaucracy going on to try and just the media, how they constantly label him as anti-vax when he's not actually anti-vax. If you actually listen to him for more than 5 minutes, about that issue, you'd find that he's actually got a lot of intelligent things to say about it, that he's actually pro-safe vaccines, not anti-vax at all. Like, he's just for safety and science. So it's actually the mainstream media that are spreading misinformation, and they bandy around terms like conspiracy theorist and stuff like this when as labels, because they don't want to have the conversations, partly because there's a lot of pharmaceutical funding behind these media companies, and so it's against their interest to have someone like Robert Kennedy Jr. on their channel, because all their advertising money comes from pharmaceutical companies. So it's a quandary, because how are we ever going to get out of this issue unless we have a discussion around it? And the discussion is just not happening. It's just a whole lot of gaslighting that is going on. So it's just sort of all this name calling and labeling that, and then all these sort of ridiculous scandals about how he dropped a beer in Central Park and how he ate a goat or something like this. Just smear campaigns. And he spent hours and hours talking on various podcasts. He does like 10 interviews a day apparently, and he has said so much interesting, common sense and fascinating stuff, all backed by research, but they sort of reduce all of that to he ate a goat, or he left a beer in Central Park, or try and find anything, or he's anti-vax, which he's not, and it's just constant smear. So I really get sick of it myself. I'm sad to see him pulling out and going with Trump. But at the same time, I understand it. I think he's better in a space on his own, not being a part of either party. And I fear that he might get swallowed up in that. But that's his decision, and I guess he made the decision that he felt was right, and I still have an enormous amount of respect for him, and I can certainly understand that it's almost like he's been beaten down over and over and over again, and there's just, if there was a fair election, it's quite possible he could have won it. If there was a fair debate, if he got on the debate stage, people would find out they actually really like him. But that's just not happening. There's too much investment in the two-party system, and there's too much investment in corporate interests and shutting him out. So it's for me, it's actually sad and quite depressing. But hopefully something good comes out of it. And there's still a lot of things to happen. So there we go. Just my 2 cents.